Ollie, let's kick off with you and let's kick off with the lodge. Tell us about the lodge.
Okay, so the lodge begins with a mother of two children who is clearly, quite distressed, and it becomes apparent that she is divorced from their father or is separated from their father, and he says, "I would now like to formalize things in a divorce," and she is clearly quite distressed by this. He has a new girlfriend who was nothing to do with the breakup of their marriage. He's just met somebody else, and the soon to be ex-wife is, yeah, as I say, is pretty traumatized, and it becomes apparent that from looking around her house things that she's quite devoutly religious, and I'd posit Catholic for what that may or may not be worth. um, and she commits suicide, which obviously is a massive no-no, and life slowly endeavors to move on after her loss. Um, Now, the father is planning on marrying the new girlfriend, who is played by Riley Keough, who it then becomes apparent as when she was younger had had escaped from a cult. Um, so it's you're building up with a lot of relative complexity. The two children are obviously now living with their father, who would be in, I don't know, sort of 8 and 12 or that sort of age, older children. And the family decide to go away to a lodge that they own for Christmas, and as an opportunity for the soon to be stepmother to start building a relationship with the children. And for reasons I've never entirely understood, the father has to go back to work for a period and leaves his fiancee and his children out in this lodge in the middle of nowhere in icy cold, snowy weather. Um, and even prior to his departure, they've had an incident where someone falls through the ice on the lake. It all feels pretty sort of dark, and I find the concept of icy cold winters in the middle of nowhere a bit frightening. So it begins with that, and the father then goes, and strange things start to happen.
I,
Uh,
I think you were saying it all feels pretty dark, and I was actually
yeah,
thinking it all feels pretty kind of like it all feels pretty kind of 90s thriller. Not, sort of like 90s thriller starring Tom Berenger and maybe Sharon Stone.
mm, not good. No, not really. So
Okay.
it's so the fiance and the children find themselves there by themselves, and yeah, things start to go wrong. She's Things disappear. They lose connection. All the mobile phones stop working. The fiance's dog goes outside and goes missing. Um, Everything is, and she loses her medication, vanishes, and you have this build up of tension. And is something supernatural happening? Is there something more to it? And you watch the sort of deterioration of the three of them in this isolated place with no ability to contact anybody else in the middle of nowhere, with bizarre things happening, and yeah, complete and utter isolation. And I can't really say more than that without revealing
Oh,
where
oh,
it goes. But
oh,
it brings together messages of religion, of what faith means to people, and what isolation does to people, and trauma. It is a very interesting film to watch, albeit not a very easy film to watch.
Right. So so let's skip spoilerific territory and just get on to what did you think about it?
I liked it. I didn't find it easy to watch, but and I it certainly at some points it's a bit slow, but it was definitely I was definitely glad to have seen it. Don't Wouldn't watch it again, but mostly because once you know what's happened slash happening, it's not one that warrants a rewatch necessarily. I might do because there are probably all sorts of things one misses. So I liked it. I would definitely recommend it if you like, sort of semi horror. Yeah, horror thriller. Yeah, it is somewhere on that thriller, but a horror line as well.
Okay.
Holly, is it a film or a series or a
It's a
a
film.
limited one of these got they like a one-off
It is a film
limited?
that lasts 1 hour and 48 minutes and was apparently released in 2019. But
Okay.
I had not come across it at all. I've got IMDb up next to me so I can check my stats. So yeah, it's clearly been out for a little while. It's been reasonably well reviewed acceptably reviewed by others.
Hmm.
And I'd say it was worth a watch for a film that has such a looming sense of terror is the wrong word, fear.
Uneasiness.
Yeah,
And is it set in what is it set in America? Because also
America.
American cast.
no, very much
sort of
much America, very much very sort of the
northwest sort of area, sort of.
yeah, somewhere where going out to a cabin in the middle of nowhere next to a frozen lake seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
That sounds like every horror film from Friday the 13th to Cabin in the Woods.
I don't know why people do that now. I'm just don't go to these places, particularly with no additional transport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bad idea. But I liked it, and as I say, I'm very glad I watched it. I thought the cast was very good. So it was and it was other people. So yeah, Riley Keough, Jaden Martell.
Oh yeah.
Oh, and it was Richard Armitage as the father.
Oh.
Obviously.
Now you've got my
all
interest.
of a sudden, that's where you should have started. Now Sharon's there, yeah.
Everybody
Now I'm
film with
interested.
Richard Armitage in it. Now may I continue? Yeah, and he's very good. Oh, and even though she's not around for very long, the mother is played by Alicia Silverstone. So,
Interesting.
so it's quite an interesting cast.
Okay. All right. So just so we could go on, I have two questions. As I'm running in and out of the rooms to look after a child. So I have two questions. Number one, how many stars? Unless I've missed that.
You have not?
Okay, yeah. Number one, how many stars? And okay, actually, let's go with how many stars. And I'll ask my second question.
I think it's probably a 3.5.
All right, 3.5 of that. And the second question is, I know we've had this conversation on the podcast, and we almost have the same conversation every time Riley Keough pops up in something that we review. But does anybody else think she looks like Drew Barrymore?
Yes, she does.
All right, cool, good. Just want to check. I know Sean and I have had this discussion before. I just want to check that it isn't just me. Each time I see Riley Keough from certain angles, I'm like, she looks like Drew Barrymore. Then you start wondering whether Drew Barrymore is related to Elvis because Riley Keough is Elvis's granddaughter. So
there's definitely that, but there's also a touch of Kristen Stewart.
yeah, I see that. Yeah, I see
Okay.
that. But anyway, she is her own person. She has her own agency. She does not only exist because she looks like other people. So okay, so 3 stars for The Lodge. 3 stars for The Lodge.
3.5.
Okay, 3.5 stars for The Lodge.
3.5.
On maybe Sky Cinema. We're not sure.
Maybe Sky Cinema was released in 2019, so it must have been Sky Cinema.